Hey everybody, it's Sam with Wrestling Overtime, and this is your Raves and Rants review of WrestleMania 36 Night 1. And it started off with the kickoff show, and we had Corey Graves and Peter Rosenberg. And I am going to be real honest with you. I like those two together. And when they were talking, I was actually paying somewhat of attention. I wasn't playing too much on my phone and wasn't eating too much or anything like that. However, when they went to their video packages and they were talking about what led up to WrestleMania on each match, I was not paying attention. I have to admit it to you guys. I didn't really watch these video packages. A lot of them were the same flashback video packages that they have been doing for Raw and SmackDown for what seems like ever. And so the kickoff show, to me, was pretty much a waste, except they did have one match on the kickoff show. And I know that I was guessing that it would be Baron Corbin and Elias, or Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley. No, 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 no. What WWE did was great. They actually, on the kickoff show, kind of made you want to tune in because they gave you a match that was not publicized, did not leak out, or anything like that. We actually had Drew Gulak taking on Cesaro. And so, this was basically kind of quick match. I was definitely expecting it to be a good match, which it was. It wasn't a bad match at all. I don't want you guys to think that. It was just that it was quick. Both these guys are kind of technical wrestlers, so I'll be honest with you, I expected, a little bit more out of it. But for it being a kickoff show opening match with no crowd and nothing really going on, it was a pretty good match. And what actually took place was Drew concentrated and hurt Cesaro's right shoulder, and he continued to concentrate on it throughout the match. And this, of course, I know everybody is portraying that Daniel Bryan is learning from Drew Gulak. Yeah, I'm not sure that that's happening. I think Daniel Bryan is rubbing off on Drew Gulak because Daniel Bryan has been doing this for years and concentrating on one body part and actually trying to get the person that he is wrestling against to sell that. And Drew Gulak did not have to convince Cesaro. Cesaro is a very old style wrestler, and he definitely sold his right shoulder. But then towards the end of the match, it was almost like Cesaro had enough. Cesaro decided kind of to take back his control, and he found out really quick that he could not pick up Drew Gulak with his right shoulder injury the way it was, and he sold that really well. So he actually hit Drew with a left uppercut and picked him up with his left arm for his patented airplane spin up on his shoulders. But he ended up putting his hands down and spinning quicker than I've ever seen Cesaro spin because of that arm shoulder. And then, of course, threw him down on the mat and got the win. They then went back to the kickoff show and basically had some more advertising because Of course, this was, on Fox where people could see, and on YouTube and different things. And they were trying to get them to either subscribe to the network or actually buy the pay-per-view. So what they actually did was just finish out the kickoff show. But what this did was make me wonder, are they going to give us a surprise match during the kickoff show tomorrow? And if so, what's it going to be? I personally am hoping for Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. I hope that is the unannounced kickoff match that we get to see. I don't know whether it will be or not. So, WrestleMania 36 Night 1 officially starts, I don't know, it was about 7:05 when Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross actually came out as the challengers to the Tag Team Championships. And then we had the Kabuki Warriors come out. Now, this is where my rants kind of start. Sorry, I know you guys have a celebratory WrestleMania Night 1, but, well, I want to say I do too, and it gets better as WrestleMania Night 1 goes. However, I have to rant about this in the beginning, because what they do in Night 1, and I know they're doing it Night 2 because they've already taped it, but they had Michael Cole doing this match with JBL. And I'm sorry, they are boring. Michael Cole, unless he really has a foil to play against, his quick-witted, almost smart aleck over top your head comments don't normally work real well. And JBL, even though he was a heel in his wrestling career, is not a very good heel commentator. I really wish that Corey Graves could have made it down and actually called these matches. I miss Corey Graves. Luckily, when it became a SmackDown match, then we would get Byron Saxton and Tom Phillips calling it. And they, in my opinion, are actually better than JBL and Michael Cole. I know a lot of people think that Michael Cole is one of the better play-by-play guys in the business. I don't know that I truly agree with that, because he's so bland and doesn't have a personality. He almost takes on the personality he's with. And for this WrestleMania, JBL being that personality was awful. They were horrific. But anyway, we get the Kabuki Warriors coming out. As you guys know, in previous episodes, I am loving the new Asuka. I love her dancing around. I love her new look with the green makeup. I loved the green mist, but obviously, I guess they canceled that. I was thinking about that last night. Why, oh why have they taken away, Asuka's green mist? Well, the only thing that I can figure out is maybe because of the coronavirus pandemic that is going on, with her actually spitting the green mist, and that is one of the ways that the coronavirus is spread, is through droplets in the air and stuff. That, number one, wrestlers don't want to take the chance, but they don't want that seen on TV. I, however, am a fan of the green mist and was hoping that she would use it tonight. I loved that when they got in the ring, immediately, Asuka started making fun of Alexa Bliss, doing her, holding her hands, under her chin with her elbows out, dancing around, and just kind of making fun of her. Now, Alexa kind of takes a little of a beatdown by Asuka, but then Asuka tags in Kairi Sane. Sane, man, oh man. She's been away. For those of you who don't know, she recently got married. She was on her honeymoon, and then because she had to travel back to the United States, she had to self-quarantine for 14 days where she had been out of the country, and that is why she hasn't been on Raw and SmackDown. She got tested and everything is fine, but you could tell she had a little bit of ring rust on her and had problems, I think, throughout the match, kind of getting into the flow. Alexa really beat her down and then tagged Nikki Cross in. Nikki kind of beat Sane down until Sane made it over to the corner, and Asuka started making fun of Nikki too. And Asuka, of course, started taking over Nikki Cross. Now, on commentary, they said this was because it was Nikki Cross's first WrestleMania, and it was her first, big match. Well, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. Nikki Cross has been wrestling for a while now over in Europe, where she's from, and then has been part of NXT, and they have held the tag team championships before. So I don't know that Nikki Cross is necessarily this novice that JBL wanted to portray her to be. The Kabuki Warriors, after Asuka took over, used a lot of frequent tags to beat on Nikki. They really wanted to kind of show their power of kicking her, slapping her, doing some tag team, double team maneuvers on her and everything. Now, Nikki does fight back and tags Alexa Bliss. Bliss has Kairi Sane in the ring, and Asuka was yelling, dancing the whole entire match, and I think that is what kept me into this match. I don't know that there was a lot, like I said, Sane seemed to have some ring rust. I don't know that there was a lot of smooth transitions, she wasn't hitting her marks. I didn't feel great. So Asuka kind of being an entertainer, dancing and yelling and talking to the referee and things like that, I think is what really kept me focused on this match. And then we got to see Alexa climb up on the ring post and hit the Twisted Bliss for the win and win the championships back for them. Like I said, this was a pretty good match. It went, I thought, a little too long. I wish it could have been tightened up a little bit. And I think WWE actually had the time and the power to do that, because they could have made edits. They had the opportunity to actually produce this match, and if there was something going on, to actually stop it and restart it and restart taping. So for this match to, number one, have went on so long, and number two, to have lagged a little bit, being the first match out of the gate, I think I was like, oh no, we're in for like another Raw, or we're in for another SmackDown, and we're going to see kind of what we've been seeing, and I was a little scared. I especially was scared when they immediately went into the next match's video package, which was talking about what had happened to Elias by Baron Corbin, and how, Baron had basically thrown him off the platform, and they didn't know if he was going to be medically cleared, and they didn't know if he was going to show up. So we hear Baron Corbin's music then hit, and he comes out and says that Elias is nowhere to be found, and that the referee just needs to get into the ring, call it a forfeit so that he can get his WrestleMania win and be done with it. However, as soon as he starts saying that, we hear Elias's guitar just strum like we normally do. However, the thing that got me is we hear Elias's guitar strum, and when he walks out, he is carrying the guitar by its neck and has the guitar behind his head on his shoulder. So it is impossible for him to have strummed that. And there was no talking by him. The guitar was not hooked up. He didn't have a mic on or anything like that, because Baron immediately ran out of the ring and grabbed Elias because he was trying to take advantage of him. But Elias hits Baron over the back with his guitar, shattering it. And Elias basically throws Baron into the ring so that the referee can start the match. Elias gets his offense really going until Corbin can get a hold of him, and he kind of throws Elias out of the ring, and Baron takes a breather almost. It's like Elias his beatdown has taken a lot out of him, and he definitely wasn't expecting it. He was expecting it to be called a forfeit and for him to go on home. So Elias gets back in the ring, and Corbin takes over, and the only thing that I can think is, okay, match needs to end. I have said on the prediction show, the preview show, that I really wanted this match to be short. I wasn't interested in this match. I didn't care about it. It didn't have a build for me. However, I did enjoy Corbin taking over and beating on Elias, and while he was doing that, taking him to the side of the ring where he could yell at Michael Cole and JBL. And he was yelling, you better be talking good about me. Better be telling the people how good I am. And he was the referee for the referee either to count faster or, to ask Elias if he wants to quit. However, right after Corbin yelled at the referee, Elias immediately started getting his momentum going and started beating on Corbin. And Baron hit him back, and I was waiting for the end of days, but he didn't do that. He basically hit, a simple move and went for the pin. And on right after the 1 count, but before the 2 count, he put his feet up on the ring ropes. The referee caught that and yelled at him and said, stop counting, and yelled at him, you've got your feet on the ropes. Corbin goes to argue with the referee, and Elias rolled him up while he was arguing for the 1, 2, 3, and he got the win. They showed it from a different angle, and it was very obvious that Elias, who supposedly has been turning babyface, won by holding on to Corbin's pants. So I don't know if WWE is going to make a big deal out of that or whether it's just going to slide. I'm thinking they didn't have to show us that different angle. They didn't have to draw attention to it. They could have cut it out. So I'm thinking that they are probably going to have Corbin use that, and for some bad reason, this program is going to continue instead of ending like it should. I think we're going to see more of Corbin and Elias in the future. Then we see Becky. Becky is arriving in her semi. And I thought they would say this is her arriving earlier today. But they didn't. They actually made it seem like she was arriving at that moment. And when she got out of her semi, she was already wearing her ring attire. She was dressed, her makeup was done, her hair was done, all of that. Of course, she left her semi truck running, as she always does. I brought it up in a previous episode. I don't know why she does that. I have absolutely no reason understanding why she would do that. Now, since she has been doing that, it's caught my attention. If I was WWE creative, what I would have had happen was Shayna already dressed in her ring gear, and I would have had Shayna come up from the other side and behind the semi and actually get into the semi and drive it and almost hit Becky or something like that. Or I would have had her jump onto the semi while Becky was driving and maybe climbed into the semi and actually have fought Becky starting there. Maybe did a beatdown or, them having to break her up and the match taking place later in the night. But no, what WWE attempted to do and tried to sell us on was that this was Becky driving up right now, and then they immediately flashed to Shayna. We hear Shayna's music hit. She comes out in red attire. I'm used to seeing her in her black or black leather or something like that. But anyway, comes out in her red attire, and she is very intense and serious looking. She looks like she is ready to go. Then, after she flashes her spades, signal, her hand gesture, we immediately hear Becky's music hit. And like I said, she was already dressed like she was when she got out of the semi, and she comes out. I know they can't do pyro. I hate it. I wish there was some way they could set off pyro or lasers or lights or something. But at least they did give Becky her steam the way, she has been coming out as the steampunk for years now. And so I was pretty excited with that. They started off quick and furious with both of them hitting each other pretty hard. It was a hard-hitting match. You could definitely hear them hitting. It was not them slapping their legs as they were hitting each other. I am wondering if Shayna works stiff, and I wonder if she does really hit, and how hard, if she does really hit, how hard does she hit? Because it almost looked like at one point she did hit Becky pretty hard, and it looked like Becky come back at her for real to hit her back. Shayna then hauled off and kicked Becky into her hamstring. And the way they filmed that, the camera angle that they were at, you could legitimately see that Shayna's top of her foot connected with Becky's hamstring, and you saw it indent from her kick. So Shayna immediately tries to go for the clutch, and Becky grabs the ropes. They ended up rolling out of the ring because Shayna, as Becky grabbed the rope, she went out of the ring, and Shayna followed her. When she followed her, Becky grabbed her and threw Shayna into the announcer's table, and then tried to throw Shayna into the steps. The referee was counting, so Becky rolled back in, and Shayna immediately got back in. They traded momentum and submission holds, and tried to really show a lot of different wrestling moves. Their transitions and their movements, like I said, were really smooth. It was almost like they had worked together before. I know Becky made a mention of it in her ESPN interview from a week and a half ago that they hadn't worked together, but I wonder if they maybe ran through the match sequence and maybe worked on it some at the Performance Center, because it was really smooth. I love the fact that Shayna actually got Becky in the disarmer, which is Becky's move, and tried to get her to tap to her own move. And then Shayna at one point grabbed Becky and got the clutch on Becky, using the ring ropes kind of as leverage. Then she dropped Becky onto the floor out of the clutch. Shayna immediately followed her outside the ring and ended up picking Becky up by her legs and banging her head into the announcer's table like she did on Raw earlier this week. And now I totally get why in that ESPN interview in a previous episode of News and Updates, I said that when Becky did that interview, her face was swollen and it looked like she had makeup on, probably to cover a bruise. Well, think about this. This was taped last week as far as Raw and WrestleMania. So, Shayna not only picked Becky up by her legs and hit her into the announcer's table on Raw, but she did it 3 days later again on the taped WrestleMania. So it is no wonder Becky's cheek was swollen and possibly even bruised. Shayna, after banging her into the announcer's table, throws her back into the ring and gets her into the clutch. And I think this is it. You can see Becky's eyes fading. She is dropping down. But as she drops down, she rolls Shayna. And Shayna kept the clutch on, I guess thinking that Becky was going to sleep is the only thing that I can figure out, because Becky rolled her over and held her for the pin. And so Becky immediately jumps up and celebrates her win, grabs her belt, and is headed up the ramp. And you can tell that she's pretty excited about retaining her belt. Shayna, however, looks devastated. And of course, the commentators have to make a comment and state, wonder what this is going to do now to Shayna. And I myself kind of wonder how they're going to play this. What happens next? Where does this go? Does Shayna have to disappear to recover? Or does she lose her mind, basically, and just start tearing people totally up? Does she continue chasing Becky? Is this how they bring Ronda back? Do they send Shayna to Browsy Acres to recover and get her mojo back and use this time as Ronda helping Shayna out? Because I think we all got to remember, Shayna is close to 40 now. And Vince McMahon thinks that is old. Like old. Which I think is ironic and amusing, considering some of the men wrestlers that he uses and how old he himself is. But I don't know that he necessarily wanted to give Shayna a chance. It really kind of irritates me, though, that Triple H used Shayna so well in NXT. They brought her up and had her go through, 10 women in the Royal Rumble. They had her absolutely destroy the women's division at the Elimination Chamber match. I mean, she basically even destroyed Asuka. And yes, she had a good match. She put up a good battle. Yes, she probably should have won. But they took this in 3 months and killed any momentum that Shayna had built up for, the previous couple years in NXT, and then the last 3 months on the main roster. So just a little disappointed. However, I can't help but be excited about this for Becky. I think they said this was 319 days that she's held the title, and I think we need and deserve a dominant women's champion. One that lasts, she's almost lasted a year, but one that lasts 2-3 years, like they had in the older days, and to kind of solidify the belt and the division. And I don't think Bayley is it. So I kind of like that they kept the belt on Becky. However, I think this does not bode well for Bayley tomorrow night. I don't know if Bayley keeps her belt. Now, the next match they showed was Daniel Bryan with Drew Gulak, and he took on Sami Zayn with Shinsuke and Cesaro for the Intercontinental title match. Now, they had to build up the Intercontinental title. I don't really think you need to do that. The Intercontinental title, I think, has always been one of the belts that people want to win. It has always had a distinguished look about it, and I know they killed it for a while, but when Miz won it, it was almost like he brought it back. I hate that they gave it to Braun, and Braun had it basically for a short period of time did not really use it to do anything with it or to even solidify Braun as a champion or as someone that I want to hold the belt. They had him lose it to Sammy, who has been basically a manager for, 6 months? After he came back from his injury, he got injured. He was out, then he come back, and he was basically a manager for Shinsuke and then Cesaro, the Artist Collective. So Sammy hasn't had the belt that long. And a lot of you, as this match is starting, were picking Daniel Bryan overwhelmingly to destroy Sammy. And that's kind of how WWE played it, and how Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn kind of designed it, is that Sammy continued to run. So as the match is starting, as Daniel goes to lock up with Sammy, Sammy immediately steps outside of the ring. And Daniel, the referee, of course, tells Daniel he's got to back up. So then Sammy will stick his head back in, and Daniel goes to lock up, and then he would step his whole body out, or he would roll out of the ring. And the commentators pointed out, but it's very obvious that Sammy doesn't want to get into the ring and actually battle. And he's trying to frustrate Daniel Bryan. He is yelling at him, "You didn't think that this would happen." And after doing this quite a few times, then Sammy actually rolls out of the ring, and Daniel Bryan follows him and chases him. Well, Sammy runs past Cesaro, and then Daniel Bryan runs into Cesaro. So he backs up. He doesn't want to get Cesaro involved or receive a beatdown from Cesaro, so he kind of stops him. Daniel Bryan gets back in the ring because Sammy is back in the ring. And as soon as Daniel gets in, Sammy again rolls out, and Daniel Bryan chases him. As he chases him the other way, and Shinsuke stops it. Sammy gets back in the ring, Daniel gets back in the ring, Sammy rolls out, and Daniel goes to chase him again, and he gets stopped, this time by both Cesaro and Shinsuke. Well, they didn't do a good job of showing it, but what actually happens is Drew Gulak gets into the ring, climbs up onto the ring post, and when Shinsuke and Cesaro stop Daniel Bryan, he basically does a suicide dive and takes out both Cesaro and Shinsuke. And then one by one picks them up and throws them over the barricade. And the commentators say they hit the floor extremely hard. I don't know. All I know is basically Shinsuke and Cesaro are out of commission, as is Drew Gulak. So Sammy kind of realizes this, and he kind of heads to the ramp. He's headed that way, and Daniel Bryan yells at him, "Go be a coward. Go get a count out. Go ahead, go to the back, let the referee count you out, and you take your win that way. Don't fight me like a man." Well, Sammy basically grins at him, and it's pretty obvious that's exactly what he's going to do, because he heads for the ramp and is walking up it, basically. And Daniel Bryan chases him and actually catches him this time and grabs him and throws him into the ring. He starts controlling Sammy with kicks to the hamstring. He kicks him in the back. He hits him in the head. Then he stands him up and he starts hitting him with chops. Sammy tries to actually run out, and Daniel grabs him and pulls him back in. And as he pulls him back into the ring, Sammy, out of the blue, turns and hauls off and hits Daniel Bryan and gets in a little bit of offense. But Daniel Bryan pretty much quickly takes back over, and you can see that he is borderline losing control. It's hard for him to keep his anger and his emotions, his frustrations, under control. So Drew has gotten up, and we see Shinsuke and Cesaro sneak up basically behind Drew and haul off and hit him and take him out. Daniel Bryan also notices this. So what he does is basically a suicide dive to take them out, to take Shinsuke and Cesaro out. So what Daniel Bryan does then is he climbs back up into the ring, and as he is coming into the ring, Sammy hits him with a Lumina kick, and it knocks Daniel Bryan for a loop, and Sammy pins him. So Sammy actually retains his championship that he won as a fluke off of Braun. And of course, they're basically celebrating. I mean, here, no one thought Sammy could beat Braun, but also with the help of Shinsuke and Cesaro kind of distracting Daniel Bryan by taking out Drew, they've allowed Sammy to win again and defend his championship. Next up, we get the triple threat ladder match for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Now, I guess the reason why I said it that way is because really, part of me wishes this match would have been canceled. This is for the tag team titles, and we're not getting a tag team match. What, from my understanding, happened was Miz showed up, and when they went to take his temperature, he was not feeling good. He was running a temperature, and he was having some symptoms. So he did not get to tape this, because a lot of you are saying, well, he was on the show on SmackDown last night. Yes, he was. It was taped, I think, a day earlier or 2 days later, or earlier. But after this, they sent him home. They had to kind of figure out what they were going to do. And what they came up was this triple threat, where one member of each tag team would kind of represent their tag team. And like I said, I just kind of wish this would have been canceled. I wish they would have used the reason that Miz brought up. And Miz brought actually up that, they just had their first title defense in the Elimination Chamber against both these teams, against both the New Day and the Usos, and those were the last 3 teams in the Elimination Chamber. But somehow, of course, they wanted this defended on WrestleMania, and I'm sure the guys involved wanted their WrestleMania moment, wanted to say that they took part in WrestleMania 36. So what happened was Kofi was picked for the New Day, and then Jimmy Uso was picked for the Usos, and then John Morrison was for Miz and Morrison since they sent Miz home. Who I really feel sorry for is Big E and Jey Uso. They don't get to be part of WrestleMania 36 because they weren't picked. So I really didn't think this was a fair match. I am not going to go into a lot of the details because describing how they configured the ladders and how they hit each other and the different kinds of flips they did and everything is really hard to do on audio. I thought this was Spot Fest. And because it became kind of one up each other, or can my spot be better than your spot, or what's going to be the highlight of this match, I think a lot of people are going to say that they enjoyed it. I couldn't really get into it. I think it's because I was thinking this could have been so much better as a tag team ladder match. I remember those days of the Dudley Boys and Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys. And with these athletes, I can't imagine, John Morrison with his hardcore background, Miz with his willingness to do anything, and then Big E and Kofi's creative nature and athleticism, and then the Usos' athleticism and willingness to do anything, that these three teams would have come up with some amazing stuff. But I thought it was really slow moving. Now, I know a lot of people are going to talk about how fast it was and how exciting it was. I didn't find it that way. I felt like there was a lot of I'll hit you, you stay down while I go over here and fight the other person, or I set up a ladder as a bridge, or I set up two ladders, or something like that. When they did make an effort to climb the ladder, they did it slowly. And of course, the commentators were saying it was because they were beat and they were banged up and they were hurting and all of that. But to me, I really felt like they were climbing slowly to give someone time to, number one, recognize, oh, I have to get up. Number two, to get up. Number three, to move to the ladder and either climb off the other side or pull that person down, or get their own ladder and climb up beside of them, and then they would do a spot. So I felt there was a lot of waiting around or setting things up in order to create these spots. I felt like it drug a little bit. Did I enjoy the ladder being set up and Kofi grabbing the sides of the ladder, swinging through the underneath of the ladder, and taking out Morrison and Uso? Yes. Did I enjoy, Morrison running from a ring post across the ring rope to grab Kofi and hit him with the Spanish Fly? Yes. There were some outstanding spots. These guys truly are athletic. But I don't think that it was smooth. I don't think it transitioned really well. I don't think it was natural. Like I said, I think a lot of it was waiting for my turn and me getting set up and then doing a spot. I felt like a lot of it was that. Then the ending that was planned really, I don't know, it got to me for some reason. there were 2 ladders set up, and all 3 members climbed up the ladder at the same time. So you had Kofi climbing up the same ladder as John Morrison, and then Jimmy Uso climbing up a ladder that was set up right beside of theirs. All 3 reached the top basically at the same time and grabbed at the belts at the same time. They were trying to unlatch either the hanger that had the belts or the belts themselves. All 3 of them were basically fighting over it. Well, what happened was all 3 then pulled down the hanger that the belts were hanging from. So they were all hanging on to the titles at the same time. Uso and Kofi kind of look at each other and have an understanding, I guess, and they both headbutt John Morrison at the same time, and as he falls, he grabs at the titles and holds onto the belt, and they unlatch, and he takes both belts down with him and hits the ring. And that's how you win, is if one person has both belts. So they, call John Morrison the winner. I just think it's a sucky way to end a good match. I have to give them credit. I mean, all 3 of these guys really put their hearts into this match. And I'm telling you, had this match taken place in front of a crowd, the crowd would have been marking out like crazy. They would have gotten some serious pops. And because of the spots they did, it's going to be up there in ladder matches, and had it taken place in front of a crowd, it really would have been up there as far as ladder matches. I just hate how it ended like that. I wish there would have been some more focused finish, but I understand they were making the best of a bad situation. These are for the tag team titles, like I said, and their tag team partners weren't there. Then, after that match, we immediately kind of go into another really good, great match. We go into Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. And Seth Rollins comes out first, and my first immediate thought was, is Seth Rollins wearing Andrade's outfit? He is dressed in all white, and he's got a white kind of robe on, like Andrade was wearing, and I was like, huh. But they announced that Seth is 6-1 at WrestleMania. And I guess I didn't realize that. I know that he's always had some big WrestleMania moments. He's always captured some championships and things, but I had no clue that that was his record. Kevin comes out in his normal outfit. He, shirt and shorts. He is not dressed up, didn't do anything really special for WrestleMania or anything like that. He just comes out extremely intense, and he is raring to go, and you can tell that. I thought the commentators would make a comment about Seth wearing white, but yet being the heel. Kevin was wearing black, and he's kind of the baby face, but they didn't. And I absolutely loved Kevin's intensity and how he was talking to Seth the whole entire time. He was basically beating on him. And he starts talking about, oh, you built this place. And he's, running him into the ring post, or he's kicking him or beating on him and getting the best of him. And he starts saying, what about how you said you were going to become a god? And he throws him, into the barricade. Seth kind of takes back over, though, when they are on the ring apron, and Seth hits a falcon arrow on the actual ring apron. And Kevin, you hear the hit and you hear the noise he makes. And Seth starts talking back to him. And, basically telling Kevin, I don't know why you wanted me at WrestleMania. Is this what you wanted and what you thought about when you thought about WrestleMania? And as he is basically destroying Kevin, he is hollering, are you rethinking this yet? And at one point, he even says to Kevin, you're making this too easy. So, then Seth throws him back into the ring and hits a sling blade. I haven't seen Seth do a sling blade in a while. Maybe because he's always had Murphy around here recently to kind of set him up for the curb stomp. But what he did was he did a sling blade and then he missed on 2 curb stomps. Kevin gets up and actually hits a DDT on Seth Rollins and then super kicks him and sets him up for the cannonball, hits it, and then climbs up on the ring post and hits the senton. And I was thinking in my head, my goodness, this is what I wanted. This is WrestleMania. This was 2 guys giving it their all. It was a very energetic match. I saw a lot of technical moves from these 2 guys that either number one, I hadn't seen from them before, or number 2, I hadn't seen from them in a while. Like, they were doing moves that they did in NXT, or moves when they first come up, not the moves that they've become known for right now. Because at one point, Kevin Owens even was going to do a pop-up powerbomb. And how long has it been since he's done that? I mean, he's been doing the stunner for months now. And so I was pretty excited. Kevin and Seth end up on the outside, and I guess Seth is done. I mean, that's the only thing I could figure out, because they're having a great match, and Seth just picked up the ring bell and hit Kevin with it. And because he did that, he gets disqualified. And so KO gets the win, but basically Seth gets his revenge by nailing Kevin Owens. Now, when KO looks up, I guess I've been watching too much AEW. I really guess I have. Because, in my head, I'm thinking, if I hit somebody with a ring bell, they should immediately be bruised and swelling, or they need to be bleeding. And Kevin Owens is neither. But as Seth is walking away, Kevin gets on the mic and kind of taunts Seth. Oh, that's how you're gonna do it. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna let me win instead of fighting me like a man and all of that. And he says, "Let's go. No disqualifications, no rules." And Seth kind of looks at him like he's crazy, but then he comes back down to the ring. And they restart the match as a no disqualifications, no rules match. And this is where this match totally took a turn and it became a great match. I can't imagine it being in front of a crowd at WrestleMania in an arena, because with no crowd and hardly any people, it was unbelievable, and I was on the edge of my seat. Because Seth checks with the ref and says, "I can do whatever I want." And the ref basically says, "Yeah." So he immediately waylays Kevin Owens and starts taking over. He gets him out of the ring and checks again with the ref. "I can do whatever." And the ref, of course, says, "Yeah." And so Seth picks up the ring steps and hits Kevin with the ring steps. Then grabs a chair from the announcer's table and starts hitting him with a chair. And Seth is yelling, "You reap what you sow." And again, I'm thinking, my goodness, why is someone not bleeding? But Kevin Owens stumbles over towards the timers area, and he actually picks up the ring bell and hits Seth Rollins in the face with the ring bell twice. As Seth falls and is laying basically on the announcer's table, Kevin climbs up on the WrestleMania sign behind the announcer's table and leaps and hits Seth directly on the announcer's table. And of course, the announcer's table basically collapses, and we can hear Seth moaning. Kevin hobbles and gets up and picks Seth up and throws him back in the ring, because that is one of the stipulations. You have to win it in the ring. And as he does, he helps Seth stand up and hits the stunner. And then he pins him. And so before Kevin won the match by disqualification, well, he won it again a second time with a stunner. And it was an awesome match and an awesome ending. And it was pretty cool. I encourage you guys to go look this one up. Watch the highlights that are on WWE.com. Hopefully someone will put it up on YouTube and you guys can see it. It was a WrestleMania classic. This match will be one of them that I think WrestleMania 36 will be known for. I really do. Now, I haven't seen Night 2, but I mean, I think WrestleMania 36 will be known. Part of the reason for this match. Then we have Mojo and Gronk. they have now came back. They really haven't been hosting. They haven't been going to them a lot. I don't know that I necessarily would call them hosts. However, they do go back to them standing on the platform, and we see R-Truth kind of sneak in. And he starts talking about the 24/7 championship and how hard it is to defend and how he has to do it all the time and he has to watch his back and he always has to have his head on a swivel. And we see Gronk kind of his eyes light up and we know he's gonna go for it. However, Mojo gets Gronk basically out of the way and rolls R-Truth up, and Mojo Rawley becomes our next 24/7 champion. Then they talk about how tomorrow night it will be Drew McIntyre's chance to actually make his dreams come true, and they advertise how they have been following him on this path, and they're going to show that documentary after WrestleMania tonight. Obviously, I didn't watch it because I gave you guys the results show, and now I am recording this. I plan on watching it later because as I was collecting stuff and collecting my notes and getting ready and everything, I did see the fact that Drew McIntyre was in a car and was talking about stuff and how they said they started documenting this back in January. So I do plan on watching it. But after they advertise for that, we see Charlie talking. And Paul Heyman kind of comes into the screen out of the blue and starts doing the "my name is," and he's yelling, and he legitimately scares Charlie. So he stops and is like, "What is wrong?" And Charlie is pretty honest with him and is like, "You scared me to death." So Heyman has to calm down a little bit, and so he goes through his whole spiel, but basically just says that Drew is going to be walking in dreaming of taking the championship, of having his WrestleMania moment, but is just going to walk out being conquered by Brock Lesnar like everyone else does. And I don't know, with the opportunity to have taped this and re-tape this or edited it or anything, it wasn't live. I thought Paul Heyman would do a better promo than that. I really did. However, it was good. It just wasn't a great Paul Heyman promo. But then, right after his promo, they immediately show Goldberg and they start talking about Braun Strowman. And my immediate thought is this match happening? We're getting Braun Strowman and Goldberg now? And I look at my watch and it's 9:30. And I was like, wait a minute. WWE said tonight was going to be till 10:15, 10:30, somewhere around there. And I'm thinking, there's no way this is happening. Because Braun Strowman and Goldberg can't go that long. Goldberg definitely can't go that long. And so, with them not releasing a order, like a match order, I had made the assumption that since it was for the championship, that it would be the main event. And I realized there's no way it can be. So that immediately is like a red flag to me. I'm like, wait a minute. They're putting on this championship match and it's not the main event. What is going to follow this? But anyway, we do hear Braun Strowman's music and he comes out. I'm checking Twitter. I'm making comments like I told you guys I would, and I'm checking other people's feeds. I follow an account, and I encourage all of you guys to follow this account. He is called WWE Creative Humor. And I see his tweet, and I am laughing. Because I'm watching Goldberg's introduction, and they do the whole thing where he comes out of the locker room, and walks down the hall and all that. And I read this guy's tweet, and he tweeted, the odds are Goldberg doesn't even realize that this isn't Roman Reigns. And I'm thinking in my head, that is so true and so funny, because I bet Goldberg doesn't. He probably doesn't care. But he comes out, no pyro, which kind of makes Goldberg's whole entrance seem stupid. He gets in the ring, and Goldberg hit 3 spears. And every spear, Braun got up. On the 3rd spear, Braun actually kicked out when Goldberg tried to pin him. Goldberg gets back up and does another spear, and then tries to put Braun in position to do the jackhammer. But instead of getting him in that position, Braun maneuvers his way and actually picks up Goldberg. He does a power slam, then pulls him off the mat, does 2 more power slams, then pulls him off the mat and does a running power slam. So basically, Braun does 4 power slams on Goldberg and then pins him to win the championship. This match lasted 2 minutes and 13 seconds. Goldberg is literally laying on the match out of breath from the spears. He did 4 of them. And then he attempted to pick Braun up. Braun did 3 regular power slams and 1 running power slam. And Goldberg looks like he is ready to take a big long nap. But Braun ends up picking up his championship and yells that it's the time of the monsters of men. And they kind of go away. And I'm thinking, wow, what a mistake WWE made. They had the belt on the Fiend. They screwed up by Vince wanting the belt on Roman Reigns. knew Roman Reigns should not defeat The Fiend at WrestleMania because he would be booed out of Tampa. So instead, had Goldberg beat The Fiend, the white hot machine that is The Fiend, the best thing going in WWE. They had Goldberg defeat him. Goldberg agreed to come back very shortly, part-time, in order to transfer the belt to Roman Reigns, and Karma got WWE. And they now have to give the belt to Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman, who they have pushed before and has acted immature, has been not professional, has been late to meetings, has said things to people, who earlier this month made comments about the indie scene and how if they weren't good enough, then they didn't deserve to get paid during this time of the coronavirus pandemic. The same Braun Strowman who had the Intercontinental title belt but yet got beat by Sami Zayn, and now has won the championship belt. All of this happened within a month. Boy, the WWE screwed that one up. And I was right. It was not the main event. And now I know why. It was awful. This was probably one of the worst matches of tonight. And Corbin and Elias was bad. But this was really bad. But thankfully, WWE did something right. They made AJ Styles and The Undertaker in the Boneyard match the main event. And I'm going to tell you guys, you need to see this match. You are either going to love it or you're going to hate it. I don't think there's going to be any in between. I think this is the best match that WWE has ever did outside of an arena. It was shot movie style, basically. It's cinematically. It was not shot like a sports type match. And it is a little bit hokey. And everything that happens, sometimes you can guess it's going to happen and sometimes you can't. But it told a story and it was unbelievable. I really, really enjoyed it, and it took me back to my childhood, to the reason why I love wrestling, and to the reason why I still follow wrestling this day. This match was just unbelievable. AJ drove up in a hearse and popped out of a coffin. I had been hoping and had told you guys in previous episodes that I hoped that this was in a cemetery, that I hoped it was outside, I hoped it was at night, and it was. And I loved it. I thought it was wonderful. AJ starts hollering, Undertaker, where are you? You have to be around here, where are you? And we hear a motorcycle. And I'm like, oh no. And we see the Undertaker is on a motorcycle with his bandana. And I'm thinking, it's not the dead man. I hate it. Because I wanted him to be the old Undertaker. I really did. Not the badass Undertaker. But I was okay. I was like, this is fine, you know. So AJ watches Undertaker get off the bike, and he walks past, looks like a barn or a building, probably where the Undertaker of the cemetery actually keeps things. And there's a light shining, and Undertaker walks kind of through that light, and AJ points and says, Undertaker, there's your grave. I come out here and I got it ready for you. And AJ goes over, and Undertaker basically meets him and just starts beating on him as only the Undertaker can. AJ acts like he's going to leave. Actually starts heading back to the hearse, and Undertaker grabs him and starts beating on him, and then AJ gets away and looks like he's gonna leave again. And Taker starts yelling, "Where are you going, Alan?" As AJ is reaching the hearse, Undertaker takes a swing at him and misses, and actually hits his forearm against the hearse's window and spiderwebs it, cracks it, breaks it, and the Undertaker's bleeding. And he holds his arm up, and you kind of see that he is hurting a little bit. And AJ kind of takes this as a sign that I'm going to use this to kind of get away. So he goes up towards the front of the car, and Undertaker catches him and picks AJ up and throws him into the windshield, where it also cracks. And AJ is hurting, and you can tell as he tries to climb up on the roof of the car to get to the other side. Undertaker basically climbs up on top of the car also and starts beating him on top of the car. Undertaker ends up hitting him and knocking him off the car, and he jumps down. AJ's crawling away, and Undertaker lands and goes after him. As he's reaching for AJ throws dirt into his face, and then picks something up and hits Undertaker a couple times. It really stuns Undertaker, and AJ is getting the best of him. He actually drags him a little bit, and Undertaker ends up near the grave, I should say. And AJ hits him a couple more times, and Undertaker is kind of fighting back, I guess. And he throws AJ in towards the grave, you know. Anderson and Gallows show up, and they yell, "Hey, we're just getting started here." Undertaker kind of heads to them, and they make a motion, and some of the walls come down on the building that the Undertaker has walked by, and there are the hooded druid figures kind of are surrounding him. Taker kind of takes this in and basically just starts hitting the figures. And then Gallows and Anderson make up their mind to attack him, and Undertaker breaks away from Gallows and Anderson and picks up a shovel and hits Gallows and Anderson, knocking them down with a shovel, and is getting ready to hit them again. And AJ comes up from behind and hits Taker over the head with a tombstone, an actual physical headstone tombstone, and Taker falls down, and then AJ kicks him in the head. He tells Undertaker to get up and says something about how Michelle won't let you stay down. You need to get up. And then AJ hits him with a hard right. And he immediately jumps back and is kind of flinging his hand around, and he's yelling, "I broke my finger. I broke my hand. I broke my finger." Undertaker is rolling around, and AJ is flexing his hand, and Undertaker makes it up as AJ spears him through a wall. Undertaker again is struggling to get up, and AJ starts yelling, "You don't have it anymore. You're just a shell, and your legacy is gone." And AJ hauls off and hits Undertaker again, and we see Undertaker near the grave. AJ picks up the shovel and actually hits the Undertaker with it and knocks Undertaker into the grave. And Undertaker is laying there. We're left kind of to assume that he's been knocked out or he's dead from the shovel blow. AJ picks up a handful of dirt and throws it on the Undertaker and says, "Ashes to ashes, dust to dust." And then AJ and the bulldozer and starts it up. And as he's getting ready to put it into gear to dump dirt on the Undertaker actually appeared behind him and knocked him off the bulldozer, starting this all up again. AJ immediately takes off and is trying to get away. Why he heads to the roof, I don't know. He sees a ladder and starts climbing up the ladder and heads up to the roof. Taker yells, "Remember the unholy trinity," and climbs up. Well, Gallows and Anderson are up there. And Undertaker actually throws Gallows off the roof and then takes Anderson and hits a pile driver to him. AJ, however, is across the roof as Undertaker is walking towards him. And he hollers, "I buried you. I had you buried." Undertaker doesn't say anything. He's got that cold stare, and he picks AJ up and choke slams him off the roof. And it looks like AJ hits the pieces of where the wall has came down. Taker comes down off the roof and is standing above AJ and says, "What's my wife's name? How old am I? What's my legacy? You know we're just getting started here, boy." So Undertaker picks AJ up and throws him over his shoulder and carries him. And he carries him over to next to where the grave is, and we hear AJ saying, "I'm sorry." Undertaker says, "Well, what are you sorry for? Tell me, what are you sorry for?" And we see AJ's face. He's bleeding. He's got dirt all over him. He looks like garbage. And he starts saying, "Please don't hurt me. Don't bury me." And Undertaker is kind of just staring down at him, and we see AJ's back, basically, as he is on his knees in front of Undertaker. And we hear him say again, "I'm sorry. Just don't bury me." Taker grabs him kind of by the shoulders, the arm, and picks him up a little bit and says, "It's okay." And he hugs him and says, "A lot of people haven't gave me the fight you have. It's okay." And we hear AJ again say, "I'm sorry." He lets AJ go, and as he does, he steps back and he kicks AJ into the grave. Undertaker wastes no time in getting on the bulldozer. We see AJ still in the grave, not moving, not one bit. And Undertaker starts up the bulldozer, immediately puts it in gear, and dumps dirt on AJ. As soon as the dirt hits AJ, we hear the gong start going off. Undertaker gets off the bulldozer, and we continue to hear the gong as it's normally doing. And we see the Undertaker walk behind a headstone where we can see the dirt on top of AJ, and his glove is sticking up so that we know that it's AJ buried underneath there. And the Undertaker shows us that it is AJ's headstone there. And it says, AJ Styles, rest in peace, and has his birth date and death date. And then he walks over and gets on his bike as we're still hearing the gong go off. And then we hear the final gong, and Taker raises his hand like he normally does. And behind him, the building that they have been showing lights up. And it has Taker's symbol there, the T with the spike thing through it. And we see Undertaker ride off. And that is how WrestleMania 36 Night 1 ended. So, what I'm telling you is, it started off slow. I was dreading it. After a couple matches, I thought, this is going to be average. It's going to be a Raw SmackDown, kind of show, It's not going to be great, but it's not going to be bad. We got Becky and Shayna and a surprise there, and I thought, well, this is going to be a little bit better than the average Raw and SmackDown have been in the last month. We got the ladder match, and we kept building. We got Seth and Kevin, and KO and Seth put on one heck of a match. Then we slid for 2 minutes and 13 seconds with Braun and Goldberg to end the last half an hour with this Undertaker AJ Styles movie. And I can't call it anything else. This movie, this boneyard match, it came off great. I loved it. And it left me with a lot of questions about, what are they doing with AJ? Is AJ taking some time off? Is he going to come back different? Are we going to see Anderson and Gallows somehow unburying him? Yeah, it left me with a lot of questions, but that's how I want my WrestleMania to be when it ends. And so night 2 has some big expectations, especially since we're getting another movie type match with John Cena versus The Fiend. And I can only hope it is almost as good as this one. And so, that is the Raves and Rants review of WrestleMania 36 Night 1. If you guys have any questions, comments, problems, protests, anything, write me at wrestlingovertime@gmail.com or hit me up on Wrestling Overtime on Twitter or my Facebook page. You guys can DM me or messenger me. But after this, am looking forward to night 2. I want to see Rhea Ripley and Charlotte. I want to see Edge and Randy Orton. I want to see Drew and Brock. But after watching the Undertaker AJ Styles movie, I want to see John Cena and The Fiend, because that has me excited. So, this is me, and if any news breaks, I will bring you guys a news and updates sometime tomorrow. Otherwise, look forward to your quick version of the WrestleMania Night 2 results show, and then your Raves and Rants review of WrestleMania 36 Night 2. And I will talk to you guys soon.